UFC Fight Night Royval versus Taira is coming up next weekend, and guys, it is actually, for a fight night, a banger of a card. There are so many matchups on here that I'm looking forward to, and today I'm going to be breaking down the entire card, diving into my predictions, fighters that I even like to see when I'm going to be diving as deep into these fights as we could possibly go, and then we're going to also reveal the betting odds. I will say I believe there's only one fight where there are no odds out at the moment. I'm recording this video on Thursday night, and as always, guys, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, apologies. I must apologize in advance. I don't know how I'm looking over here on the webcam, but we might have my little one join us for the recording right now. She's teething right now. My wife has her for a little bit. We've been taking turns, and this recording's going to take a while. So might have a few jump cuts, especially if she ends up getting here and recording with me. Hopefully that doesn't ruin your viewer experience. I don't think it will, but personally, regardless, just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up on that, guys. Again, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Let's get into the fights for today. Starting off with the first bout, Chris Barnett versus Junior Tafa. Guys, I am so excited to see Chris Barnett back. How long has it been since he actually fought? It's been 2 years, dude. I knew it's been a while since we've seen him. Now, I actually don't know why he's been off that long. I'll start with that. But anyways, Chris Barnett is a very, very fun fighter. He's a weird fighter because he has good power, and somehow, for his size, he has good movement and he has good speed. The only real glaring weakness for Chris Barnett is pressure can get to him, but he's a very fun, creative heavyweight, always an absolute blast to watch. Now, speaking of blast to watch, Junior Tafa coming back after dropping the ball just over a month ago against Walter Walker. He is a good kickboxer. He has power behind his hands. Now, he can be taken down in control, and this is where Chris Barnett can kind of influence his game plan. And recently with Junior Tafa, he has shown absolutely no ability to defend leg kicks. Don't know what's going on with that guy. He's 5-3 at this point, and I don't know, man. The Walter Walker fight just really left a sour taste in my mouth to Junior Tafa. I always thought the Tafa brothers, we all know they had good hands, but I always thought they weren't the Mark Hunt that everybody was kind of hyping them up to me. Obviously, Justin Tafa is a better fighter than Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa, he can knock anybody out. He can catch Chris Barnett. I think the big question here is, how's Chris Barnett going to come back and look? He's 38 years old. Last time he fought, he was 36 years old. Don't know why he's been off. It was an injury or anything along those lines. Plus, you have to really worry about that movement speed coming back into it, because ring rust is an absolute real thing, right? And Junior Tafa could absolutely catch him. Junior Tafa is in a point in his career where he really needs to prove a point. Chris Barnett's a tough fighter. So if this was happening 2 years ago, I'd absolutely be picking Chris Barnett, but there are some red flags over there. This is a little bit of a tough one, man. Again, I wish I knew why Chris Barnett was taking time off. So this is a very low confidence pick in mine. I am going to pick Chris Barnett. Again, Junior Tafa has not impressed me at all. Yeah, you know what? He stepped on 1 day's notice against Dilima, but I mean, that's just more cool than anything. And then he did the absolute opposite of a fan favorite thing and made everybody cheer for Walter Walker, just push him, getting salty that he lost. Ridiculous, man. For this fight, I am going to be picking Chris Barnett in a low confidence pick. Unfortunately, there are no odds at this time for this fight, and it looks like for the next fight that we're going to be talking about, there are also no odds, but the rest of the fights, we do have odds to take a look at, guys. Now, guys, let's move on to the next fight up on the card, and actually, I'm kind of looking forward to this fight, to be honest with you, and typically, I'm not too interested in this division, but we have Cory McKenna versus Julia Polastri. Now, you know what? I'll start off with Julia Polastri, because she was on an absolute roll coming to the UFC. We've been watching her since the LFA days, and she ran into Josephine Knutson, which was a good fight. Honestly, I thought this fight could have gone either way personally, so I don't think it's a stain on her record. I think she came into the UFC, still looked really good. Cory McKenna, on the other hand, is coming off of that really tough submission loss to Jacqueline Amarim at the beginning of the fight. So Cory McKenna is a very aggressive, high-pressure fighter who will come forward, throw hands, look for takedowns. That is the entire game plan. Her striking is decent. She has a variety of takedowns. She has really good ground and pound for the division. Cory McKenna does actually look like she has some serious potential, and I'm excited to watch her fight. But Julia Polastri, actually, I don't mind watching her fight over here too, because she is a high output striker a high pressure output striker who will attack kind of all parts of the body. And I really do like when fighters do that. I don't know why more fighters don't constantly, it's something weird that I have to really mention it. Oh, she's going to attack all parts of your body. She's going to make the opponent think a little bit. I thought it was a little bit strange, but she does have BJJ credentials. But to be honest with you, from what I've seen, I don't think she has good BJJ. She's shown very little technique, although somehow she does secure takedowns when she goes for them. Her grappling is really strange to me. Again, like I said, she has the credentials, but from what I've seen, it's nothing to write home about at all. The only other thing that I don't like about Psycho is sometimes when she eats like big shots or someone really, really catches her, I don't like the fact that she sits down and makes faces instead of adjusting in the middle of the fight. So that's something that worries me about Julia Polastri. It shows me like, hey, can you, like, I feel like if Cory McKenna had a specific takedown that wasn't working, she would adjust and maybe go for a different takedown or maybe throw a few shots before moving into a takedown. I think that matters a lot with fighters, okay? The other issue with Cory McKenna is, unfortunately, she is very, very small. But what's funny is Julia Polastri is actually tiny as well, but she's going to have a huge reach advantage. For someone with the striking of Julia Polastri, I think that's going to matter in this fight. I think that Cory McKenna is actually going to be better on the ground. I'm a little bit more of a low confidence pick on this one, to be honest with you. But I am going to pick Cory McKenna in this fight. I could see both girls winning. I'm be looking at like a 1.5 round for this, depending on what it ends up being. Cory McKenna is not going to get submitted right away, and I don't think Julia Polastri is going to finish Cory McKenna. Cory McKenna is pretty tough, but regardless, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this one, man. And to be honest, I don't really care who wins. I kind of like watching both of them, man. It's a good fight for the division. I'm kind of excited for this. And like I said, for this fight, guys, there is no betting odds at the time of recording this video, so unfortunately, that's what we're rolling with. But anyways, guys, let's continue on up the card because we have another really, really good fight that I am excited to see. We have Dan Argueta taking on Cody Haddon. Dan Argueta, man, coming off with a really, really rough record right now because over 2 years ago, he had a loss, got a win, and then ended up having a premature stoppage, and then unfortunately not ending up getting another win at all. He lost to Gene Massamuto, but honestly, that was a really, really good fight as well. Like, I'm excited to sit down and watch Dan Argueta fight. I've been following Dan Argueta because he is very, for a long time, as in, like, before he actually had any UFC experience, okay? Because I'm a big fan of Cub Swanson and his gym. He is very, very close with Cub Swanson. I've been paying attention to that, and I'm a big, big fan of Cub Swanson. So he is a grappler who only wants to come forward and grapple. He has good wrestling. He has good BJJ. He has a really, really good job when he's in control. His takedown shots are actually like super, super strong too. The defensive wrestling is there as well. His pressure is nice, but he does leave room to be clipped and is susceptible to calf kicks. And that's something that I think that people are really going to start utilizing more against Dan Argueta because we've seen it more in his fights too, where he had a little bit of a problem with that, or at least the legs out there to be hit. But Cody Haddon, man, 7-1 looking good. There isn't too much to break down with this guy because he's just a well-rounded fighter with good hands. He has some pretty sneaky takedowns, and at times the dude can get a bit sloppy, but for the most part, he seems like a promising talent. The only issue with Cody Haddon, of course, is he's making his UFC debut after his Contender Series win, so he doesn't necessarily have that UFC experience, and from an eyeball test, I don't really think he's there just yet. I could be wrong. I would just need to see a little bit more from him, but again, like, he has the finishing potential, he has the skills, but again, I don't really like a little bit of the sloppiness I've seen from him. Like, Dan Argueta just had a really, really good performance against Gene Massamuto. It was a fantastic, tough fight over there because that wasn't like a bad loss at all. It was still a good showing. Dan Argueta just obviously needs to work on some striking a little bit. So Cody Haddon could absolutely get the hang of it. He could utilize his calf kick. He could catch Dan Argueta coming in, but as of right now, I'm going to lean towards Dan Argueta. Again, another low confidence pick for this card. I don't know. We're going to be going through it because there's a lot of fights here that's really, really tough from a betting perspective, but I'm going to have a slight lean towards Dan Argueta. Now we can take a look over at the odds and see what Odds Jam thinks of this. We see Cody Haddon sitting at a minus 181 favorite. I understand that, to be honest with you. As a guy in the win streak, he looks pretty promising so far. I get that, but he lacks that UFC experience, and that's what's really stopping me from picking him at the moment. Now, guys, let's move on to another fight on the card that is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to watch this fight. We have Jonathan Pearce taking on Pat Sabatini. Jonathan Pearce coming off of one of the best fights I've seen in his career against David Onama. Very, very fun fight. Fight could have gone either way, so as far as I'm concerned, Jonathan Pearce is coming out with an okay thing. I'm not looking at him like he has 2 losses. I'm looking at him like he just had a really, really good performance. I understand that he lost, but you get my point, okay? Jonathan Pearce, pure wrestler who likes to come forward and take you down. He does have striking. He's not completely useless, but he definitely prefers to wrestle. He has fantastic cardio. He has really, really good heart. We have Pat Sabatini, who has a sneaky good record, to be honest with you. This dude, and I really, really want to watch these guys end up grappling, okay? He's a very, very dangerous grappler who is always live for a submission. One of those really fun grapplers. Honestly, Jonathan Pearce is really fun as well. So he is always looking for the finish. I mean, Pat Sabatini, excuse me, and has brutal and precise ground and pound using both elbows and hands. He's really fun to watch. He has some serious skill, and he does have a decent stand-up game to back that up. So both of these fighters, and I think this is great matchmaking by the UFC. Pat Sabatini coming off of a loss to Diego Lopez, which unfortunately completely didn't go his way, but that loss has aged really well. Jonathan Pearce had the weird performance against Joanderson Brito because he got overconfident. He was controlling Joanderson Brito, and then Brito just went, nah, and then locked up one of the sneakiest submissions we've seen. But anyways, and then he had the great performance against David Onama. So, Jonathan Pearce, I'm still really high on. Pat Sabatini, I like watching fight, but I question where he exactly belongs in the division. At least, I know Jonathan Pearce can hang with Joanderson Brito. I don't know about I don't know about Diego Lopez, but David Onama's a really good fighter as well. I'm going to go with Jonathan Pearce in this fight. I think his ground game's good enough to kind of stop Sabatini's really aggressive game, and I think Jonathan Pearce is slightly more well-rounded. So I am going to pick him to win this fight. I've been really impressed with him lately, even in his 2 losses, and even before that, Jonathan Pearce has looked pretty good. So I'm going to pick Jonathan Pearce to get the win, and I would like to see him get the win, man. But I don't know, I like Pat Sabatini as well. The odds are very interesting. Very close with Jonathan Pearce being a very small favorite. The more I'm talking about, the better I'm feeling about Jonathan Pearce. Let me know what you think about this one down below, guys. Now, guys, let's continue on to another really good fight. I am always excited to watch CJ Vergara fight. Love watching this guy, and he's taking on Ramonsbek Temirov, who is a very exciting prospect. I cannot wait to see him come into the UFC. So, he's a fighter who's 17-2. He's making his UFC debut coming out of Rise, and he is a well-rounded fighter with huge power in his hands for the division, and honestly, he does have a skill set everywhere. He's dangerous on the feet, and he can even finish you on the ground as well. He has nice transitions on the ground, nice defense on the ground. He's just a pretty good fighter in general. CJ Vergara, on the other hand, very fun fighter. Big fan of this guy. He's an aggressive striker with high pressure, good movement, fast shots. On the ground, he does have decent BJJ and really good scrambles, and he does have good cardio and good heart as well. The issue is, we have seen these grapplers get the advantage on CJ Vergara, but, it's not like he gets dominated or anything. I know there has been performances where he hasn't looked so good, but I just don't think that CJ Vergara should be one of those guys that's counted out. Everybody was counting him out against Azu Mbabayev. I was saying don't count him up, and of course, everybody saying Azu Mbabayev is the real deal was correct. I was thinking that he was the real deal as well, but I'm just saying, I don't know, man. I wouldn't count out CJ Vergara. And then, of course, you have the same kind of loss against Tatsuro Taira, but both of these losses aged really well, and he got 2 nice wins in between against 2 respectable opponents. CJ Vergara is a very underappreciated fighter in my opinion. So, of course, Temirov, on the other hand, appears to have the skill to belong into the UFC. He appears to be a guy who can actually hang in the division, but of course, you have to worry about when people are making their UFC debut, sometimes their whole career kind of switches around, right? CJ Vergara has some really good experience against top-level fighters. In saying that, unfortunately, I do think I want to pick Ramonsbek Temirov to get the win here. I got a funny feeling he's going to be able to control CJ Vergara. But you do have to worry. And CJ Vergara is aging a little bit. He's just passing his prime. I don't know, man. When you can take a look at guys and you give them the eyeball test and you're like, okay, I feel like you could belong in the UFC. That's kind of how I feel about Temirov. CJ Vergara, I still don't believe he should count out, but I am going to pick Ramonsbek Temirov to get the win here. Not super confident saying that, but I am picking him to get the job done. CJ Vergara is a fighter that I will absolutely be cheering for in this fight. Guys, he is such an underappreciated fighter. Very fun to watch. And you can see that Temirov is sitting at a sizable favorite at minus 258. I like minus 200-ish for him. I definitely wouldn't be playing that, especially someone making their UFC debut. But hey, it kind of makes sense with the recent performances of CJ Vergara and the guys that he's lost to, right? Sorry, guys. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm kind of breathing heavy. I'm sweating a little bit. This video is taking me so much longer to record because I keep running all the way upstairs. We have a ton of stairs in our house, by the way. I keep running all the way upstairs to help the baby, give my wife something. The dog's going crazy too. It's been a day, man. It's been a day, and I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm a tad bit sweaty, and I feel gross for the cameraman, so my apologies. Hopefully the fight breakdowns are still fun to watch, but let's continue on, guys, over to the next fight in a very interesting bout. We have Clayton Carpenter taking on Lucas Rocha. Honestly, I don't have a ton to say about this fight because Clayton Carpenter, who is a very experienced martial artist with great grappling, he has good pressure, he has really good aggression. Lucas Rocha, on the other hand, is a very powerful finisher who does a good job utilizing both his knees and his punches. He is a very powerful guy and throwing all kinds of, fun strikes out there as well. While he does have a decent skill set, though, he can be taken down. And That's kind of where I see the Clayton Carpenter path to victory over here, but Lucas Rocha is a great fighter in himself. Honestly, both guys coming out of the LFA, coming off the Contender Series, and Lucas Rocha is finally making his UFC debut. Both guys have actually been really inactive. I don't know why that is, because it's been a while since we've seen Clayton Carpenter too. Yeah, almost 2 years ago. Okay, the only thing I was going to say is he does have that first UFC win, but I don't know why either of these guys have been so inactive. Wish I could tell you, and that might have a factor into who's going to win this fight. But honestly, I thought this was a 50-50 either way, to be honest with you. Like I said, there's not a ton to talk about for this fight. If you had a gun to my head, man, I would say Clayton Carpenter, because that takedown offense is seemingly available to him. But it's going to be a good fight. It's really interesting. Let's take a look at the odds have to say. And the odds actually reflect that. They're pretty close. They're pretty close. You can see Clayton Carpenter as a small favorite. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it, man. Like, I think it's a really close fight. Certainly not one to bet on, in my opinion. But now we continue on, guys, and we have another actually, like, interesting fight because of the way that both guys are in their careers right now. We have the return of Chidi Njokuani taking on Jared Gooden. Now, Chidi Njokuani is coming off of a win after having a really rough go against Gregory Rodriguez, Albert Duraev, and Michael Oleg-Struck. Now, he did get the win against Reese McKee, but literally nothing happened in this fight. This is, you could scratch us off the record and it would not make a difference. Nothing happened in that fight, okay? Jared Gooden, on the other hand, I shouldn't say he should be coming off of 2 losses, but he is coming off of the Wellington tournament fight where he was getting completely outclassed on the feet and on the ground, and he just landed, and I don't even mean to call it a lucky shot because he tried to knock the dude out and he got a knockout, and I don't think it was, no, he got the really big clip first, right? That's what it was, yeah, and because he got the submission rear naked choke. Sorry, I was remembering that fight a little bit incorrectly, but you get what I'm saying. So it's interesting to see both guys coming back right now, right? You have Chidi Njokuani, who's a good rangy striker. He has good power. He has good speed. There is a little bit of a hole in the ground game. He's not completely useless, but the dude can be taken down. Jared Gooden, on the other hand, this is where I could see him getting a little bit of the upper hand over here. He has huge power with decent takedowns. He doesn't really excel anywhere, but he makes up for it with his strength and power. And if he comes in with the game plan to take Chidi Njokuani down, I think that he could have some success in it. But to be honest with you, I also could see Chidi Njokuani keeping Jared Gooden on the outside. I think that Chidi's a better striker. Jared Gooden will be bigger, stronger, and willing to take Chidi down. Jared Gooden's also in his prime. He's, I don't know, man, because Chidi, his losses, they're not bad opponents to lose to be honest with you. Like, he got put through the ringer against these opponents. This performance, though, isn't making me feel good. Like, nothing happened in that fight, and that was just 6 months ago. Jared Gooden, he had a bad performance here, but at least, like, we've seen some good performances from on the other, like, just besides this Wellington tournament fight, you know? Plus, Wellington tournament is a very underappreciated fighter, in my opinion, and he is a very improving fighter, too. I'm going to go with Jared Gooden in this fight. I have a sour taste in my mouth from Chidi Njokuani. Plus, you got to be thinking about it, and Chidi Njokuani is aging. Maybe that's why he hasn't looked so great in this fight, but yeah, I don't know. Welterweight division, you can get away with 36. I'm going to go with Jared Gooden in this. Again, a little bit of a low-confidence pick, man. This card is a very tough card to break down. Let's take a look at what the odds have to say over here. You see Chidi Njokuani being a small favorite. I think Jared Gooden is absolutely an underdog opportunity to get the win. And to be honest with you, I don't really care who wins this fight. Don't have a preference either way. Now, guys, of course, I talk a lot about betting on this channel, right? If you guys are looking to either support the channel or see exactly where I'm putting my money, where my mouth is, because again, I talk a lot about betting over on this channel. You can check out the channel membership in the pinned comment description down below or right next to the subscribe button. It is very cheap compared to other channels. Every single Thursday or Friday, I will be uploading exactly what I'm doing with my money and the bets that I place each week. Yeah, we always place bets on UFC, and we dive into other organizations when we can. Like, I like betting on One Championship, LFA, the occasional PFL and Bellator card when they're on. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, supporting the channel, or combining my fight knowledge with your own research that you've done, then you're welcome to do either of that. Thank you so much for listening. Again, very cheap compared to other channels. Also, the tool that we've been using, OddsJam, they are a partner of the channel. Thank you very much to OddsJam. Fantastic if you're someone who's serious for sports betting and has multiple sports books. You can check it out in the link pinned comment description down below and use code Clenbat if you'd like to sign up. You can get a discount on your first month. Thank you so much for listening to that, guys. Let's move on to the main card. All right, guys, let's move on to another good fight on the card. We have Niko Price taking on Themba Gorimbo. I like this fight, man. I like this fight because I think it's a good step up for Themba Gorimbo because I still want to see him tested a little bit more because I'm pretty invested into him. I like watching Themba Gorimbo fight. I like Themba Gorimbo, same with Niko Price. So Gonna hurt the heart a little bit for this one, but I'm not overly attached to either of these fighters as a fan. So you have Niko Price, who's a good striker with decent submissions, relies a little bit too much on out-harding you, but when he does that, it can be quite effective. Themba Gorimbo, on the other hand, is a good striker who uses his range very well. He takes his time, keeps you at bay. He also has really, really good counter-striking too, with takedown defense to get behind it. So Themba Gorimbo is, on paper, a pretty good fighter, but in my opinion, he still has not been tested, okay? Since he came into the UFC, he lost to AJ Fletcher, but even then, in his wins, I haven't been overly impressed with him. Like, nothing happened in this fight. And yeah, you know what? He got the KO over Pete Rodriguez, but what does that really say? And Takashi Sato, You know, Niko Price is, in my opinion, the next step up, but I still don't know how Themba Gorimbo is going to end up sitting in the welterweight division. Niko Price, on the other hand, I do believe is past his prime. I was shocked to see him get the win over Alex Morono, but I believe Alex Morono is also past his prime, except like way more past his prime than Alex Morono or than Niko Price is. But we didn't really find that out until recently. At least I didn't find that out. Before that, he got knocked out by Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, who's completely washed, lost to Phil Rowe. Depends how you want to look at that fight. Beat Alex Oliveira, but who doesn't? And then lost to Michel Pereira, which is a win that's okay, or a loss that's okay to have. Niko Price, I do believe, is past his prime. I think Niko Price relies a little bit too much on out-harding you, and he could absolutely get the win here because he could out-pressure Themba Gorimbo. We don't know. We haven't seen Themba Gorimbo, like, pressure to the extent that a Niko Price really could, but on the other side of the coin, Themba could absolutely just keep Niko Price on the outside. It's one of those weird matchups, right? I do like Themba Gorimbo in this matchup, though. I worry about him as he moves up the division, but I think he will beat the level that Niko Price is at, and I'm fairly confident in saying so. I think Themba Gorimbo is going to keep him on the outside, going to be a little bit more of a slow fight. Niko is just going to keep walking into shots. That's kind of how I feel this one's going to go, and man, this is one of those fights that's a shame to see someone lose, because again, I like watching both guys a lot. Let's continue on over to Odds Gym and see what the odds are at right now. You can see Niko Price sitting at a little bit of an underdog, Themba Gorimbo at a minus 257. Yeah, I guess that one makes sense, to be honest with you, but man, I'm not going to like that one. Hurts my heart a little bit. Now, guys, speaking of Alex Morono, let's move on to the next fight. We have Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez taking on Alex Morono. Another really good matchup by the UFC, to be honest with you. Like, this card is so underrated. I cannot wait to watch these fights, honestly. I'm recording this before UFC 307. I am legitimately, matchup-wise, looking more forward to this card. Call me a casual you want or a fake hardcore. I know, like, when people say that type of stuff, you're like, oh my god, you want to be a hardcore fan so much. Like, I'm a hardcore fan, okay? I like watching fights, and these are better matchups. I can't wait to watch UFC 307 as well, but that's besides the point. Daniel Rodriguez, man, I'm kind of glad, but I feel bad at the same time because I don't want to be disrespectful to these fighters, to be honest with you. I've been saying forever that Daniel Rodriguez is completely overrated, and people are kind of seeing that now. He's just a boxer with good takedown defense, and sometimes he fades in fights. That's the story of Daniel Rodriguez. Coming off of 3 really rough losses in a row, and he lost to Kelvin Gastelum. But I will say, to be honest with you, his camp before this fight talked about him being vastly improved, and honestly, it showed. I hope it's not just because it was Kelvin Gastelum, but I think he legitimately improved a little bit, okay? The problem with that is, I still don't believe he's a UFC caliber fighter, at least at anywhere near the top level, okay? His hands were finally more active, they were accurate, but again, I just don't think he's a UFC talent, man. And I feel bad saying that stuff because obviously Daniel Rodriguez has put a lot of work in, and I don't mean to be disrespectful as a guy who's just sitting here at his desk critiquing someone who's doing something infinitely more brave than any of us are going to be doing, right? Okay? But I'm here to talk about the fights. Alex Morono, on the other hand, big fan of this guy, very disappointed with him as of recently, okay? He's a clean striker, really nice movement, really good grappling. He appears to be past his prime now at 34 years old. He's been showing up inconsistently for a little while, and he has been slow, sloppy, and appearing to be in worse shape when we see him. I am officially done believing in Alex Morono until he proves otherwise, but I don't believe that's going to be the case. You can see he's 24-10. He's win-loss, 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 and he has fought good opponents, to be honest with you, besides maybe Court McGee, like, depending on how you want to look at that. And Niko Price is also past his prime. He lost to Niko Price. I was very confident in him to get the job done. Like, a prime Alex Morono would have danced circles around Niko Price. I think Alex Morono has been looking worse and worse as time goes on, and I keep believing in him, and I no longer have that faith. But the problem is, he's fighting someone that I absolutely have no faith in, so what does that leave me with? You know what? For some reason, my gut is telling me that Daniel Rodriguez is going to get the job done. You have two fighters that's past their prime. Alex Morono should be the better fighter. He absolutely should. No, Alex Morono is the better fighter. But every time he's been showing up, he's been looking worse and worse. And Daniel Rodriguez actually looked good for once. Or, I mean, good. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm picking Daniel Rodriguez. In saying that, though, I am a huge fan of Alex Morono as a fighter and as a person. I hope that Alex Morono gets the win here. I love watching the guy fight. I've had a lot of respect for him. Been following his career for a very, very long time. I like Alex Morono. I hope he gets the job done. Unfortunately, I don't have that faith anymore. Let's take a look at the odds, and you can see that Daniel Rodriguez is sitting at a minus 200 favorite. To be honest with you, I understand. I've been like believing in Alex Morono for too long now. Makes me sad to say, man. Makes me sad to say. Now, guys, let's continue on to yet another interesting matchup. We have Josh Fremd taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Again, very good matchmaking by the UFC. Again, two fighters coming off of interesting performances. Okay, so you have Josh Fremd, who unfortunately is coming off of two pretty rough losses. The Roman Kopylov fight was an absolute demolition, and the Andre Petroski loss was a loss that he just got held the entire time, and if I'm not mistaken, that was at elevation. But regardless, Josh Fremd's a decently well-rounded fighter. He can fight anywhere. He's not one of those guys that doesn't really excel anywhere, but he is a good fighter. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, on the other hand, is a powerful but low-volume striker. He does have judo credentials, but we never see it. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, in my opinion, has taken on pretty tough opponents. Like, he got the split decision loss against Joaquin Buckley, then Claudio Ribeiro ended up getting a good win, and then he moved on to Joe Pyfer, and then he had the Cody Brundage fight, which, in classic Cody Brundage fashion, escaped with that with a no contest win, okay? You know what I mean, but not win, but it was, again, Abdul Razak Al Hassan is clearly more dangerous than Josh Fremd, in my opinion. I just worry about the times where he does show up low volume. Both fighters are fairly inconsistent. Both fighters are kind of at the same point in their career, but Abdul Razak Al Hassan is 39 years old at this point. Josh Fremd is still in his prime. I'm so reluctant to pick guys that are 40 years old against somebody that's fighting in their prime. But I just think Abdul Razak Al Hassan has looked a little bit better recently, and he might be able to clip Josh Fremd. Like, even in his last fight, he was murdering Cody Brundage, but that doesn't really say too much. But then again, you have the fights like the Joe Pyfer bout where he does nothing. You know, what if he shows up like that? Again, this is one of those fights where I'm kind of like 55-45 on this one, man. I'm going to pick Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but not feeling good about it. Man, I don't know what I'm going to bet on for this card. I have no clue. Very, very slight lean to Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Let's take a look at the odds over here. And by the way, I would like to see Josh Fremd get the win. I kind of feel bad for him in his recent opponents, recent performances, man. Anyways, you can see Abdul Razak Al Hassan sitting at a very slight favorite. It's kind of, and that makes sense to me. If you want to hit it. Like, I wouldn't judge you for that. I don't know how I feel about this one, to be honest with you guys. It's going to be a good fight on a great card, man. Guys, let's continue on to the featured bout of the night. We have Grant Dawson taking on Rafa Garcia. Good. I'm not kidding, guys. When I said at the beginning of the night, I'm looking forward to all of these fights. And the co-main event and the main event's like even better, man. I'm so excited for this. Grant Dawson, grappler with great control, transitions, maintaining top game. There's not a bunch to break down about Grant Dawson. He's a fantastic grappler. Rafa Garcia, on the other hand, is a heavy-handed grappler with really good heart. Like, can't wait to watch this one, man. He's one of those guys, though, Rafa Garcia, when he has weird cardio. Okay, he has weird cardio because he doesn't have the gas tank, but he's one of those guys that is visibly gassed, but he will use his heart to keep pushing himself to perform. That's why I like watching him fight, man. He, after his first loss in a little while against Drakkar Klose, he came back and got two really nice wins. We haven't seen him in over a year. I don't know why that is. I don't know why anybody's been off this time around. But Grant Dawson had a lot of questions after the Bobby Green loss. You always have to worry about somebody after their first KO loss. Then he came back and got the unanimous win over against Joe Selecki. He got the control the whole time and got the win. I want to see these guys grapple. But unfortunately, I think Grant Dawson has the better cardio. I think he has the better transitions. And I think that Grant Dawson, if he goes for the takedown, he's going to get the takedown. I think even if Rafa Garcia wants to exchange with Grant Dawson in the grappling, I think that Grant Dawson will somehow get the better of those transitions. Rafa Garcia can absolutely catch Grant Dawson, kind of like Bobby Green did. He has the power to do it, so that's always there. And we still, maybe Bobby Green just clipped him, but we've never really seen Grant Dawson clipped like that, and then he got knocked out. So you never know. I'm just saying the potential of a chin issue's there. Just saying that. But other than that, Grant Dawson, in my opinion, should win this fight. I just think that he's a better grappler. You have two grapplers going at it. one with subpar cardio, one with good cardio, one that's been in control his entire career so far. Like, he's 21-2. I'm pretty confident Grant Dawson to get the job done, guys. Pretty confident in that. Let's take a look at what Odds Jam has to say about it. And I would like to see Grant Dawson get the win, by the way. I'm a fan of Grant Dawson so far in his career. Grant Dawson's a big favorite. Understandable. He's probably my most confident pick on the card, to be honest with you. But even saying that, like, is that like my only confident pick so far? No, there's got to be another one, man. But regardless, very, very fun fight again. Now, guys, let's move on to the co-main event. I was very sad when this fight got canceled, and now we're finally getting to see it. Brad Tavares, Jun Park. If there ever was a 50-50 fight, it's this one, and I cannot wait to watch it. Brad Tavares, good striker, wants to keep things on the feet, really good takedown defense, and that's why it's exciting, okay? He can hold his own on the ground, though, even if he is taken down. He has a ton of high-level experience. He's very tough. You can never count this dude out of a fight. Brad Tavares is 29. Don't let his record fool you. He has fought some amazing competition. Just in saying that, Gregory Rodriguez, Chris Weidman, Bruno Silva, Dricus du Plessis, he got the win over Chris Weidman. Sorry about that, guys. Jun Park, on the other hand, is a controlling grappler with decent striking, and he has good cardio. His goal will always be to get his opponents to the ground and work for a submission. He has magnificent heart. He'll fight through any little bit of adversity you throw his way, and he will make it hell for you if you try to get any advantageous position. This dude is so much fun to watch. He's coming off of the fight against Andre Muniz, where, man, the biggest takeaway from this fight, dude, is he has heart. He was controlled the entire time, or 90% of the fight, being taken down over and over again, and not once did this dude accept any position. Like, I love watching Jun Park fight. I love watching Brad Tavares fight. I have no clue what's going to happen here, man. Because you have a guy who wants to just take people down, Brad Tavares, control him, go for the submission, and Brad Tavares is one of those guys who has fantastic takedown defense. And even if, what if Brad Tavares keeps Jun Park on the feet? His heart's just going to push him through. Jun Park can absolutely keep up with Brad Tavares. Like, man, this fight is going to be absolutely incredible. You have Brad, like, I cannot wait to watch this, man. Yeah, I cannot wait to watch this fight. I was so disappointed when the first one ended. You have to worry about Brad Tavares getting up there in age. He is a little bit past his prime, but he's still a good fighter in my opinion. Like, he's one of those guys, like I said earlier, you can't count him out. He's fought amazing competition. He did get KO'd. Jun Park is coming off of a loss, a clear loss, but in my opinion, like, his stock only went up in that fight. I don't know who's going to win this fight. I think this is the biggest 50-50 fight on the card, and I think you're crazy if you bet on this fight. I think you're crazy, and it's impossible to have a solid prediction about this fight. If you have any reason as to why, like, honestly, if you have any reason as to why one of these fighters is going to win this fight, comment down below. I legitimately want to know. Because, I'm willing to have my mind changed, but as of right now, I think you're crazy if you're betting on this fight, okay? If you had a gun to my head, I'd pick Jun Park. The age, the better performance recently, okay? And for who I'd like to see win the fight, actually, I would like to see Jun Park win the fight. I like both guys, but I'm a fan of Jun Park. Can't wait to see him, man. I'm so excited for this. Let's take a look at Odds Jam, see what the odds are at. You can see Brad Tavares sitting at an underdog, man. This should be a pick'em. I wholeheartedly believe that. This should be a pick'em fight. It is such a close matchup, and I cannot wait to watch it. It's a fight that I'm looking forward to most on the card, and the main event's still great too. But guys, let's move on to this absolute banger of a main event. Brandon Royval, Tatsuro Taira. Brandon Royval, the guy who has had a career resurgence against Tatsuro Taira, the guy who has finally proved that he belongs into the UFC. I messed that up completely by stumbling over my words. I'm an idiot. I'm not going to re-record it, okay? Brandon Royval is a very dangerous but well-rounded fighter. He has fast striking and a BJJ game to back it up. He excels when he's the one dictating the pace and moving forward. Sometimes, though, Brandon Royval gets a little bit too dirty in the fight, and he gets caught up in kind of trying to really kill you and go for the finish. At times, that can work against him. Like in this specific scenario, Tatsuro Taira might be able to die for his legs as Brandon Royval's going in for the kill somewhere. He also doesn't adjust much during his fights like Brandon Royval, and that's something to note. You know what? I'll just talk about the Brandon Moreno fight right now because it perfectly proves what I'm saying, okay? The entire 5 rounds against Brandon Moreno, he was getting nailed with the exact same overhand. The exact same overhand. It's not the first time we've seen that type of stuff from Brandon Royval, but no adjustments. Nothing. He just kept getting caught by it. I mean, it was a good fight. Like, it was a tough, close fight. And that fight, honestly, like Brandon Royval against Brandon Moreno, it could have gone either way. Split decision's understandable, but man, that bothers me. Like, what if Tatsuro Taira keeps getting the same takedown over 5 rounds? Is he going to adjust? He needs to fix that, in my opinion, okay? Tatsuro Taira, on the other hand, I am officially a believer in the hype train of Tatsuro Taira. He's a grappler with fantastic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His striking is very, very underrated, in my opinion, but his goal is 100% to take his opponents down. The striking defense is actually pretty good as well. He's patient. He waits for his moments. On the ground, his transitions are very, very smooth, and he's always looking for the submissions. Now, he is coming off of the Alex Perez win where people think it's an injury. People think Tatsuro Taira did the movement on purpose. I don't know what to think, to be honest with you. I see both sides of the argument. But regardless, like Tatsuro Taira, after his recent performances, man, like he has gotten some wins over great guys, and I am officially done saying that, okay, we need to see a little bit more from Tatsuro Taira. No, I'm a believer in the dude now. In saying that, though, it's a big jump up in competition, okay? Brandon Royval is an absolute dog in this fight. And you know what I'm curious about? Because, and of course, I'm going to be paraphrasing right now. I don't recall exactly what Brandon Royval said, but he said something along the lines of, like, I'm never going to let someone hold me down like that again. Like in the Alexandre Pantoja loss. I'm interested to see if that's going to be the case. Is he going to be really working on his takedown defense, or is he just going to, like, hard it out? I think this is another really close fight, guys. I think it's a really, really close fight. Tatsuro Taira getting better. He's only 24 years old. Brandon Royval has all the experience. Like, he just beat Brandon Morono. It's a really good win. He fought a really good fight against Alexandre Pantoja. Stopped the hype train of Mateus Nicolau. Matt Schnell, And then you have the Rogério Bontorin win, which is, it depends how you want to look at that. Brandon Royval can absolutely win this fight. I think this is another really close fight, man. I'm going to give a slight lean to Tatsuro Taira. I'm like 55-45 on this. I know, and I get a few comments like this, guys, quite often. Something along the lines of like, why don't you pick a fight? Why don't you just pick a fight? I'm like, I'm here to break down the fights, dude. I'm here to break down the fights. I'm giving my honest thoughts on the fight. If I'm not confident in a fight, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm confident in Tatsuro Taira getting the win. I'm not going to do that. This is the craziest sport we've ever watched against top level talent. So if that hurts your viewing experience, honestly, I apologize, but this is what I'm going to continue to do, man. I'm here as a fight fan talking about these fights, and I cannot wait to watch this entire card. The matchmaking on this card is some of the best they have done in recent history. UFC Noche was really good matchmaking too, but I legitimately cannot wait for this card. I'm recording this before UFC 307, and I'm looking forward to this card more than I am UFC 307. I mean that. I got a little bit off topic. Close fight, 55-45. I'm going to pick Tatsuro Taira to get the win. And man, I like both guys. I'm going to cheer for Brandon Royval in this fight slightly because Tatsuro Taira has a long career ahead of him and a lot of success ahead of him. So for that reason, I would like Brandon Royval to get the win. It's kind of his time. Tatsuro Taira, a little bit of a favorite over here. Average odds at -205. Understandable. Over 2.5 is at -181. I actually don't hate that. It's a parlay piece or something like that. I actually don't hate that. You have to worry about Tatsuro Taira getting a finish early on, or even Brandon Royval getting a knockout, to be honest with you, but it's just something that I don't hate. I have no clue what I'm going to do for betting this time, man. Really, really, really tough card. But guys, that's all the fights. That's all the fights to talk about. I had a good time. Hopefully you had a good time too. Sorry about the mess. Again, I don't think I'm very presentable right now, but it's a small OBS camera on my other monitor up there. So I don't know how it's going to look, guys. Thank you so much for being here and watching the video. If you want to continue watching the channel, then check out this video on screen right now. YouTube thinks that you'll like this video the best if you want to keep watching. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Take care, guys.